Aya, Tepewe Neolakakoke, Kara Wayneswaane, Nila Myaamia. My name is Kara Strass. As Daryl introduced, I am a second-year graduate student here at Miami University. I'm finishing up my second year in the Student Affairs and Higher Education Master's Program, and I've had the opportunity to have my assistantship at the Myaamia Center, and so I've gotten to work with all of our students. And specifically, that's what Student Affairs is learning to work with students who are in college so that you can help support them to be successful while they are at the university.
Aya, Haley Wayneswaane, Nila Myaamia, Tepewe Neolakakoke. Hi everyone, my name is Haley. I am currently a fifth-year doctoral candidate now, wow, at Iowa State University. I'm studying counseling psychology like Daryl mentioned. And yeah, I'll be leaving Iowa State after this, the end of this year to come to Miami to do my doctoral internship. So I'll essentially be working full-time at the counseling center here on campus in the fall.
So before we have some of our students talk to you about what their experience is like, we wanted to just provide you some context because I know a lot of you are familiar with the Miami Heritage Award Program, but we really wanted to make sure that everyone had kind of the background information so that you understand what the experience is that students are going through. And we can't really talk about that without talking about the relationship between the tribe and the university. And so that relationship really began in 1972, and I don't know if any of you noticed on a lot of the Miami Heritage logo apparel, it has 1972 on it, and so that's what that's referring to, is the start of the relationship between Miami Tribe and Miami University, and that's when Chief Forrest Olds came to visit Miami University unexpectedly. The university did not know that he was coming, and so it was really through that kind of unintentional first connection that this whole relationship has grown. And obviously, as you can see, it's strengthened over time, and that really has happened consistently over time since 1972. And then this photo is of the first students who arrived here at Miami University, and that was in 1991. There were just 3 students. So just to continue on with that history, after 1991, the Myaamia project was created in 2001, and so that's when the university really recognized this relationship is growing. They wanted to formalize this relationship through the creation of the Myaamia project at the time, and that is also when Daryl joined us. And then the Myaamia Heritage classes began a couple years later, so that's when we invited the students who were already attending Miami University to get together formally to learn about history, language, culture, all of those things. The first Myaamiaki conference was then in 2004. And then the Myaamia project became the Myaamia Center in 2013. And so that didn't mean that we necessarily changed directions in what we were doing, but it really signified a permanence that was here. So the Myaamia project was something that was kind of seen as a trial, and then when it became the Myaamia Center, it's a permanence of that relationship here on campus. And so the newest thing that we have talked to you a few times about that has come out of this relationship is creating an image that really talks about that reciprocal nature of the relationship between the tribe and the university, and that's our new Miami Heritage logo. So the picture up on the left is Chief, along with President Crawford, signing an agreement around that logo about the use of it, who owns it, and the shared nature of that logo. On the right is what it normally looks like when there's apparel in the bookstore, although I heard they brought every single piece over here to sell to you, so I doubt it looks like that at this point. And then down at the bottom, the MHL logo, along with the words Nepwandinge, learning from each other, that's really the language that goes along with the symbol so that we can express that the meaning of this shared logo is that we truly are learning from one another. We both think that we are better because of this relationship. So what is the Miami Heritage Award Program? It's an 8-semester program, so we do expect students to be here for 4 years. Obviously, sometimes students need a little bit longer depending on their path. Students have to maintain a full-time student status. They have to maintain a minimum GPA. And they have to participate in Miami Heritage courses, and I'll talk about those a little bit in the next slide. And then there's also additional Myaamia Center events that we have throughout the year. So we have a retreat at the beginning of the year where we get all of our students together. It's really about relationship building at that point. We want our students to get together, to get to know one another right at the beginning of the year to start off on the right foot. And then additionally, events like this or Myaamia New Year party when we get back from winter break. So our students are all together in courses with one another. It's a 1-credit course, and it focuses on 3 different topics, so it rotates 3 different years. One of the years is a focus on language and culture, and that's what we did last year with the students. History and ecology will be next year, and contemporary topics and tribal sovereignty, we're in the middle of that right now. And so that means that whatever the topic is, when you come in as a freshman, that's where you start, and then you rotate through this 3-year process. So the students are all together, and again, that's reinforcing the community aspect. You're not coming in and only learning one thing with only students your age. We're together as a community trying to build knowledge with one another. And then in their senior year, students do a senior independent study project with us. And so that's where they're trying to create a project that integrates what they've learned in their major or minor with what they've learned in the Miami Heritage program to create some sort of project. And so that might be a tangible thing, it might be knowledge creation. And the goal of that is to create something that's going to give back to the community. And that can be in any way that they define what that community is. So that might be the community here on campus, that might be their family community, or the community at large. So just talk about our students. We have 30 tribal students who are on campus right now. That's a big increase from the 3 who were here in 1991. We've had over 120 Myaamia students on campus here at Miami since the first students arrived, and we have 70 degrees that have been awarded to Myaamia students. So you can see just from the numbers the impact that this has had on Myaamia people and how much that relationship has truly grown and been important to all of us over the years. And so now I think Haley is going to talk a little bit about our assessment project.
Yeah, I kind of created this a little bit before I thought of what I was gonna say, so bear with me if it doesn't match exactly. So out of this program, out of our educational efforts through the community, has arisen the need to essentially assess what impact these educational efforts are having on a community level. And so when I think about what I do, as a counseling psychologist, a lot of what I do is therapy, right? So I provide therapy for people. And when I think about what that is, it depends on the theoretical orientation, and I won't get into my entire postmodern worldview and what that means for therapy. But essentially what I do is I ask people to share their stories with me, right? I ask them to tell me in their own words what their experiences have been throughout their lives, throughout the most recent years, since they've started experiencing whatever symptoms it is that they're coming to me for. And then I use that information to create a conceptualization of what's going on for them so that they can, in my opinion, so that they can self-actualize, right? A lot of psychologists talk about pathology and what's wrong with people and how to overcome that, but I think of it more as how can they grow? How can they use their strengths, the things that are already in existence, to help them to become the best version of themselves that they can be? And so, when I started thinking about that, actually this morning, I was thinking about this that parallels quite a bit what I do in this assessment team. And so I ask people in the community, what are your experiences? What are your backgrounds? What was your family life like? What were your experiences at A1 Zapata, at Sakachaweta, in the Miami Heritage Program? And I kind of use my psychological knowledge to make some sort of conceptualization to ultimately, hopefully, provide programming and assessment that will help us to continue to grow and self-actualize as a people. So that's kind of the parallel I see between my training as well as the assessment work that we do. So we recently, this week actually, coined the team name of Myaamiaki Acquisition and Assessment Team. I don't know if we're going to say NAT, NOT, I don't know how we're going to pronounce it, but it's an acronym. And as part of that team is myself, Dr. Susan Mosley Howard, who's featured in this picture here, so she's not able to be here today. Dr. Kate Rumanier, if you want to wave. Dr. Joe Schroer, is he here? I saw him earlier, but he's also on our team. And so we all work together doing quite a bit of assessment. And so our goal is to examine the impact that our community programming, our educational efforts, our cultural efforts have had on a community level, assessing what we call nahimeto sinawinge, or living well. And so importantly, that means that we're looking at living well as a process as opposed to an outcome, right? So not looking at it as something that can be achieved, but something that we live on a daily basis. And so ultimately, like I said, we're hoping to create programming and help to engage the community in ways that will help us to grow as people. Our preliminary results we've done we've gathered observational data, interview data, we've done surveys, all sorts of stuff, and that's continuing to grow. And preliminary results have shown that these educational efforts have been linked with increased engagement with the community, an increased sense of belonging and connectedness with the community, as well as higher academic attainment for the students that come to Miami University. So it's had quite a big impact on the community, and I expect that we'll continue to see that grow throughout the years as we further this. And so today we're going to do a panel. I mean, we have another slide to get through, but we're going to do a panel, and I kind of am going to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you some of the types of questions that we ask when we're doing these interviews, right? So that you all are able to see, like, what is it that we're wanting to know? What are the questions we're asking? What are the things we are hoping to get?
So we are going to ask students to share their stories with us and to share their stories with you. So we felt a little bit like we couldn't do that without sharing a little bit about our own stories. And so, as Daryl told you, we are sisters. And we both ended up here at Miami University for school, me in graduate school and Haley in undergrad. And we took two very different paths to get here. And so we were thinking that the fact that that was true with two students who are coming out of the same family is interesting. We want to share that with you, just to give you kind of a little primer for understanding that all of our students are coming from a wide variety of backgrounds and understandings, and they're having a variety of experiences here while they're at Miami. And so I'm older, so I guess I'll go first.
Always.
So I was pretty involved, and I think Haley would say this too, with our family. Our grandmother is here today, and she shared a lot about our Myaamia heritage and background with us when we were children, and a lot of that had to do with our heritage and who we are and who we came from. And so when I went off to school and I went to Notre Dame, I did not come to Miami as an undergrad. I went there with that understanding, but I don't think I had a good understanding of what it meant to be a Native American, especially a Native American woman in a contemporary society. And so I truly spent my 4 years there figuring out what that meant for me and for other people that I was working with at school. And I graduated with a biology degree, decided I did not want to do biology for the rest of my life. And when I thought back on what it was that I really loved doing and had a big impact on me when I was in college, it was working with other Native students. And so it was working together to provide support as a community within the Native American Student Association, and recognizing that students were coming from a variety of different backgrounds, but they had a lot of needs to help them be successful in college. So when I decided that that was the path that I wanted to take professionally, I went to Daryl and Bobby to talk with them about what that could look like, and they were gracious enough to allow me to come in and do that specifically at Miami University with our tribe students.
Sure, and I had a different experience. So, I mean, similar growing up, Grandma told us stories as children, and we would go to powwows and meetings and that sort of a thing. So I was very familiar with the community in those ways. But I actually started my journey like more hardcore, I guess, when I was a part of the first A1 Zapata program that we had. Back when it was an overnight camp, and I had an allergic reaction to watermelon, and I think it scared Daryl, and it was this horrible thing. And I continued as a camper for 4 years. And so I went all the way until I essentially aged out of the program and was no longer able to come. Came back as a counselor then, and served as a counselor for I don't know how many years through college. And then I came to Miami University because I heard that people had some awesome experiences. Some of the counselors that were at the camps were students at the time, and so that was really powerful to see them there, and I wanted to do that. So I came to Miami University, and I got a major in psychology and accidentally in Spanish. And then Looking back on my experiences, I can kind of see how I think both Daryl and George kind of nudged me in a particular direction, I think. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue a degree in counseling psychology and ultimately be able to give back to the community in whatever way that meant. So for me, that means potentially continuing with the NAT team and doing this research that I do, as well as hopefully someday being able to provide some of my psychological services to the community as well, whether that be through support groups, focus groups, therapy, whatever that means. I don't know right now, but someday I'll figure that out, and I'm hopeful to give that back. But during my time at Miami, I think in similar ways to Kara, the things that made it easier for me to develop my identity were was the community, right? So things like UNASA, things like the Myaamiaki conference actually helped me to grow closer with other people that I was around, and so that really helped to shape my experience and shape my own identity.
So now we have some students who have graciously given of their time to come talk to you about what their experience has been like. So we'll start out by having each of them introduce themselves, and then we have some questions to ask them so that you all can hear what their experience has been like. Addison, you want to start?
Yeah, does this thing work? All right.
Should.
I, Addison Winswani. My name is Addison Patrick. I am a sophomore sports leadership and management major. And yeah, that's me.
I, Tori Myaamiaki. I am a junior creative writing and journalism major.
It's gonna be weird if we just. Aya Kilsoon's Myaamiaki. You can also call me Megan, whatever you want. I'm a senior creative writing major and Spanish minor.
Aya Alangwanasata Wayne. I'm Gloria Titman, and I'm an English language arts education major.
Aya, Brandon Winswayane. I am a junior biochemistry major.
Wonderful. So our first question is going to be for Addison and Brandon. We kind of targeted it so that we save time. But what factors contributed to your decision to attend Miami University?
I would say I grew up a little bit similar to Haley. The fact that I lived in Oklahoma, I had a lot of access to Miami, Oklahoma, and so I got to know a lot of the community members. And I also went through A1 the OG overnight camps were a lot of fun. And so just being able to do that and get to know people, and then once I kind of started reaching that college age, I heard about my university, and there were a couple people in this room, in fact, who kind of pushed me up towards this way. And so I visited, and I loved it, and then as well as the great program that we were able to, where I was able to learn more about my culture and learn more about my language, and as long with the financial package of the tuition waiver is a big factor that helped me contribute to going here to Miami.
So for me, I didn't necessarily have the experience of going to A1 Zapata when I was little. I went to community events. We had a powwow and a gathering for a bunch of family that I knew I was related to, but not a whole lot of being integrated into the community, if that makes sense. And so when looking at Miami University, just to be completely honest, it was like an opportunity to learn about my heritage, but what mostly pushed me here was the Heritage Award. So without it, I wouldn't be here.
Anyway. So Gloria and Megan, would you be willing to share with us what your experience was like with the tribe or your Myaamiaki identity prior to coming here to Miami University?
So I've been privileged enough to have grown up in the community. I was at the first Mishkanakwa powwow in Columbia City when my mom was still pregnant with me. So I've been very immersed in the language and the culture, and I've always known this part of me, but I didn't always necessarily share it. And I was ridiculed a lot for it in middle school, early high school, and so I kind of let that part of me fall away for a while. But coming back to Miami University has really helped to cement my Myaamiaki identity.
I, on the other hand, did not have any background at all with the tribe. I remember in 4th grade, we had to do a Native American project, and I think my mom told me that we were part of a tribe. I don't remember if she said the name or not, but I did not remember it. The only time that I remembered that I was a Myaamia person was when my older sister Jackie, applied to go to Miami University. And I asked her why she applied to go to this little place in Ohio, and she's like, "We're Miami." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that's how I found out. Before then, I just kind of lived thinking I was kind of like in a Caucasian sort of context. So coming here is basically built from the ground up my Myaamiaki identity, and I'm very grateful for it.
Great. So the third question's for Tori and for Brandon. What did you expect to learn at Miami? And then a sub part of that is, how has your experience been similar to or different from what you expected?
So coming to Miami, I had an open mind just because I was unfamiliar. I knew I was Native American growing up, but I'm not that close to my grandmother, so I didn't have a sense of what being Native American was, what it entitles in the community. So coming here, I came to the first classroom and I ran into Ian Young, and I was so overwhelmed because everyone, so many people I did not know, and he came and gave me a hug, and he's like, hello, and I was like, hi. So I guess coming here, learning I guess we learn different, each semester, but a sense of community is what I found that I didn't really have going into Miami, so I guess that's not what I expected, but what I got out of it.
So for me, I kind of expected to go to Miami University, focus a lot on my biochemistry studies, and kind of have to go to a class every week. And so, I mean, in that class, I expected to learn about my heritage, kind of like a history, but what I really found is it's more centered around community building. And I would say that I'm definitely a part of the community now, and it's something I didn't expect to learn. We do a lot of things in terms of learning about how we fit in today's society now. And, like my freshman year, we learned about ecological perspectives and how that isn't how Miami people looked at the world back then. It's how we look at it now, which is a very distinct difference, but very powerful, and is definitely not what I expected to learn.
Great.
So Addison and Megan, what has your experience been with the Miami Heritage courses?
So honestly, I'd probably say the heritage course that we have each Tuesday night for 55 minutes, even though I wish it was a little bit longer sometimes, it's been probably one of my favorite things coming here so far at Miami. Being able to see people that you know each week through in just my 2 years here so far, just be able to grow with them, and, coming in, even though I have a foundation in some of the things that we have been learning, I have nowhere near as much knowledge as I did after going through the language semester or language year last year, and so far the sovereignty throughout this year. And so just being able to do that and increase my knowledge, and also be able to grow with new people that I hadn't met before, and get to see them week in, week out throughout my 4 years here of Miami, has been really, really great for me so far.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's a class that we all go to, but it more feels like you're just kind of hanging out with family for an hour every week, so it feels more like a little bit of a party. Maybe George gets kind of annoyed by that every week. But we're encouraged to learn more, I think, because you are just kind of hanging out with your friends, and you want to learn this so that you can interact with them on this other level that no one else really understands. And I think that's really cool that that we all get to explore this part of our identity together, and it's very impactful. For me, I'm the only senior here today, so I'll be representing that class. But I have now gone through all the courses. Each year we have something that we focus on differently. Last year was our language year. Before that was history, I think, and my first year was a long time ago, but contemporary issues. And it has been a whirlwind for me, because I learned everything new, not having any context, but it has been incredible to build this whole cultural perspective and also get a really good knowledge base about my Myaamiaki identity and just the Myaamia tribe as a whole. And now I'm currently doing my senior project and hoping that it kind of works out well and helps the community.
And so one of the parts of the Miami Heritage Award program that I didn't really talk too much was advising, but we do individual advising with students, and that can be both academic. We don't replace an academic advisor, but we're there to support students, but also socially. Tori and Gloria, would you speak to what that advising has been like?
Yeah, so Bobby, I see Bobby right there. She does our advising. I kind of went in. I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't know what kind of writing I wanted to, what it entailed. And she, my first meeting with her, well, she told us, sorry, is that too loud? Yeah.
No, I just don't want you to have to lean all the
Yeah,
time.
thanks. That's true, yeah. Didn't know what kind of clubs or organizations they had on Miami, but she was like, well, they have this, 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 this. You should apply to all of them. And I was like, wow. But I ended up joining two organizations for writing at Miami, and at Miami. One was Up for the fashion magazine, and I joined in my freshman year. But every year she encouraged me to apply for a leadership position, and now here I am I'm now a senior editor for the magazine. So I'm not that type of person to go out and get it, but I think being with Bobby has advised me to be kind of a go-getter and do what I want. So thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby has been such an important part of my social life here because she's really encouraged me to stand up for my beliefs. I had a problem with a professor last semester that it really hit me hard, but Bobby was there right after it happened, actually. I was late to a meeting with her, but yeah, she's just always looking out for everyone, just making sure that we all know we have someone to talk to, and encouraging us to live healthy lives outside of our classes and just everything that kind of bogs you down here. So thank you, Bobby.
So there's lots of activities that students can be involved with outside of the program, so things that are not required. So that might be being a counselor at A1 Zapata or Sakataweta, traveling to Washington, D.C. with us for Breath of Life. So Addison and Brandon, would you talk with us a little bit about what your experience has been like outside of the program?
Yeah, kind of like I said earlier, that 55 minutes a week isn't quite enough for me, so I hang around Bonham Center a lot, and I'm trying to interact with as many students as possible and faculty and everything like that. But one of the biggest things that I've been a part of, I think so in my life, is A1 Zapata. Like I said, I started with the overnight camp when I was 10 years old, and I've been a counselor now for 2-3 years. And so being able to work with, grow up through it, and then also work with the younger children has been just an amazing experience because it helps you grow in your own learning and as well as teaching others and kind of growing that community and creating those relationships of hopefully bringing other students to Miami University to kind of continue and grow this program that we have so far. And so I just try and get my hand in as many programs as we do have around here. I remember my freshman year, we went to Columbus in the Ohio Museum and demonstrated lacrosse, our traditional lacrosse to the museum and outsiders there. And so I just try and get into as many activities as possible. There's an abundance of possibilities that if you really want to get into, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. And so I just try and do that as much as possible.
So I had the opportunity to go with some of the tribe members to Washington, D.C. for the Breath of Life program, which was incredible. Went with Chinguia, Kara, Mishkanakwa, who's not here, and Kaiten. And so I would say that was an incredible experience for me in particular because it really integrated me into a group of a smaller group of individuals that I could go to and talk to a lot. When we were in D.C., we had the opportunity to go to the archives and look at the primary language documents where the translators originally wrote down the language for other tribes, and we kind of walked through the steps that Dr. Costa and Daryl had to go through to basically revitalize the language, and they've put in a ton of work. So that put in a huge perspective. There's no way that I could anywhere come close to what they've done. But then along with that, doing the work, flipping through the archives, trying to help out other Native American communities do what we've done, we just kind of hung out. We went to an Ethiopian place, which I'm not a fan of. I'm a germaphobe. You grab everything, and people were touching my food. But other than that, we went to a Mediterranean place called Kava, which was incredible. If you ever go to DC, it's my favorite place ever. But so yeah, really bonded with them. But then other than that, we went to DC, and another trip for me was the stomp dance. We recently went down to Oklahoma, and that was the first time I've ever been to a stomp dance. And that, again, the activities outside of class are so essential for us to be able to bond with one another because I don't know how long the bus ride is, far too long. But so we just have to entertain ourselves by playing silly games and really kind of bonded with these guys. Max is sitting over there. But yeah, so definitely all the students that go, it just makes it like the group even smaller, and people on campus that you can see and you can just say "aya" to. So.
So as you all know, a large part of college can often be study abroad. And Megan and I have bonded over our study abroad experiences because we both went to the same place. And so, Megan, I want to ask you, how did study abroad impact the way that you view your Myaamia identity?
Okay. So first off, it's impossible to say like all the ways, because study abroad also just it challenges the way you think about like everything. I've always lived in the Midwest. I was born in Indiana. I go to school in Ohio, so my view of the world has always been a little limited. And then I went to the Basque Country in Egawalde, which is the southern Basque Country. It is technically within the geographical borders of Spain, but it's the Basque Country, it's separate. And they are an indigenous culture, probably like one of the oldest, if not the oldest, in Europe. And I partially chose to go there because I wanted to interact with a different indigenous culture, and I thought that would be very interesting to see how they interact versus how my experience with the Myaamia tribe and with my friends up here is different, and how it compares. So I wanted to see that, and also it's on a beach where I ended up in Donostia, so that wasn't bad. But I think the biggest thing was their revitalization is incredible. They have like TV stations in Basque. They have like 25,000 speakers in the city that I was in, which is incredible. Like Basque is everywhere. It's on the sides of streets. You hear it every day. Like I would order coffee in Basque. It was awesome. And so I learned a lot about the Basque culture, but that gave me a lot of time to think about like, how can I take this back to Ohio and Oklahoma, Myaamia? And I think really it just shows if a community comes together, they can really accomplish so much, because they had just everything against them. I mean, Spain just really didn't want them to do anything with their culture, and it almost just died out, but they kept it alive. So I think for me, it just fanned the flames that I really want to stay connected with the tribe and help it out. I don't know exactly how I'll do that. I don't even know where I'll be this summer, but I think it helped me realize that I really want to stay in contact with the community and how important that community is. Yeah.
So this question is for Megan and Addison. How has what you've learned in the Miami Heritage course changed the way you experience your other coursework at Miami?
Well, kind of having a background with the Myaamia culture a little bit has given me like the confidence to like speak up in class a lot, in tribe class, and probably a little too much sometimes. But just kind of having that confidence to just speak up in a class full of people that you know, it kind of bleeds over into other classes. And so just being able to be confident in myself and kind of try out new things, and like just even trying out new words and knowing that you might fail is kind of similar to asking a question that you don't know for sure, or trying to answer a question that you don't know for sure, and just kind of going out on a limb and trying to better yourself through failure. And so that's one big aspect I've taken in other classes, is kind of reaching out and trying to grow and take new chances and within the classroom, and just try to become a better student in person.
I think for me, the coursework in general, like, it makes it sound very formal, but I mean, it's really just affected how I view culture and identity. So it's had a very fundamental layer in like how I view myself and the world around me. So, I mean, it kind of affects every class I go into, and it really depends on the course. Like, I'm a Spanish minor, so when I go into Spanish class, I might be viewing the language and the grammar in a certain way, but I might also question, like, wow, this is how they set up a sentence, but in Myaamia Twenge, like, it's so different, and it gives me that, like, fun perspective that I can compare and contrast things. But also, I'm an English major, so I deal a lot with story and the importance of it. And in a lot of classes, we talk about, you know, why is it important? Because a lot of people say, like, English majors aren't really that great. What do we contribute to society? But storytelling is really important, and that is something that the tribe and George especially has really shown me through our coursework. So that's something that I have sometimes shared in my own classes. And also it's just fun to get like different cultural perspectives, because sometimes you do have those discussions in class, especially in college, where people want to share ideas. I remember I was in one minority literature class last year, and we were talking about black writers in America. But we were just saying how like you don't really interact with other cultures. There's just like one dominant one. And my professor brought up like, have any of you actually even seen a Miami person on campus? And I raised my hand. And she was like, look, one person has seen a Miami person. And I was like, I am one. You've all seen one. But no, I think it bleeds out in really interesting ways throughout like my entire experience here.
So the next question is for Gloria and Tori. So how do you think your college experience would be different if you did not attend Miami University?
So when I was making my decision to come to college, I was really torn between IU in Bloomington and Miami. And I was really struggling with what I wanted to do, because I know this is going to sound terrible, I'm sorry, Mary, but my older sister had come here for college, and I was sick of being compared to her. And I wanted to branch out, do something different, but the more I came to visit and I visited IU, the more I came to understand, like, I had a support system here and people I had known my entire life. So it was no question in my mind to come here, because I had so much that I had learned that I could share with others too. So if I hadn't come here, I don't think that I would be nearly as involved as I am. Like I said before, I had kind of stepped away from my Myaamiaki identity for a while, and I don't know that I would have come back if I hadn't attended Miami.
Yeah, going off of that, my like knowledge was so limited when I came to college that I didn't know a lot about who I was in my dad's side and my Myaamia side. And I've learned so much about myself from coming here that obviously I wouldn't have learned because I wouldn't have the Myaamia experience I have had. Especially going above and beyond, going besides college, I participated in A1 Zapata as a counselor this summer, and my Aunt Sue, who's over there, took me to places that she's been and my grandma has been that I never knew. So I just think I've learned a lot about myself that I wouldn't have had if I didn't come here.
And so for our final question, we're going to ask everybody to answer it. How has your view of your Myaamia identity changed since starting the Myaamia Heritage Program? And if you have an example, what has had the largest impact on that change?
I guess I'll go. I would say the fact that my Myaamia identity has been much more central to my character and my identity. It's one of the first things I bring up when I talk to people nowadays. It also helps the fact that they ask, well, how'd you get up here from Oklahoma? And so I go all throughout that and say I'm a Miami tribe from Oklahoma. And but like before coming here, like I went down to Miami, Oklahoma just 2-3 times a year, and so I had a very limited exposure to it. I mean, I knew I had some like identity to it, and that I was part of it, but it was not nowhere near as central as it is now. And so just the fact that can proudly say that I'm a Miami Indian and a citizen of the Miami tribe, and just learn throughout all my culture and language that become a better person of it. I think that's been huge, and being around with all these people and being immersed with other Miami citizens. And so that's what I'd say would be the largest impact, is being with other students and faculty who care for me and I care for as well, and just helping me grow as a person.
Yeah, that I can say that I'm very proud to be a Myaamia citizen, just because of the community that I've had throughout these 3 years so far. I know, like, at first when I didn't know anyone, I had Ian, and Ian was, like, my rock, and literally, like, I would call him about everything my first semester at Miami, and it's only grown from there. So I think my identity is I know so much more about myself, as like was saying in the last question, than I had before I started this program.
I think for one, my Myaami identity has been like almost completely built here. Without coming here, I think I would have been interested in my identity as a Myaami person, but I don't think I would have had the connection that I do at all now, because for me now, and as a lot of people have mentioned throughout the day, being Myaamia is about community, it's about the people, and that's how I view it. When I come here, I see that I'm coming back to family. So I've basically completely built my Myaami identity here, and I think the largest impact was when I did National Breath of Life my freshman year. First off, shout out to Bobby for sending me a really scary email saying, "Do you want to come to my office?" And I went, and I was thinking of all the things that I did wrong in my head. And I got up there, and Daryl was there too, and I was like, man, I really messed up. They were like, okay, do you want to go to DC? And I was like, this is very different than what I expected. But I got to hang out with Ian, who is an incredible guy. I imagine most of you know him, but if you do not, awesome person. But I was with Ian, another tribe student named Kelsey. I was with Chinguia and Ningia, I'll just call her Ningia, Karen. And we were just kind of hanging out in DC, and we would take like notes from like 200-year-old documents of many different tribes. We'd get like a different tribe each day, and we'd have to look up like different vocab lists, different stories from each one. And like we were from the Myaami tribe, and we were taking these notes for all these different tribes to help them with their revitalization. I think in that moment, working with my family beside me, I was like, wow, we're having like such a big impact right now, and that helped me to see the impact that the tribe has on me, which was, well, that's a very roundabout way of saying it, but yeah, it was a good time.
I've really come to value my Myaamia identity, and just being around all of these tribal members who are just learning all of this information for the first time has been so exciting, and I've loved seeing their excitement, but also being able to share my knowledge and my experiences. So that's really like changed my perspective on it, and so I've been able to share a lot more with people outside of the community, which is something that I wasn't able to do for a while. So it's really helped to kind of change my course and how I think I'll be involved in the future, and I think that's really exciting.
So for me, similarly to Megan, I would say ultimately my identity was built here. I always knew that I was Myaamia. Well, I said Miami before, but I always knew that, but I always used it as kind of like a fun fact. Like if somebody's like, oh, like say a fun fact in class, it's like, oh, I'm part of the Myaami tribe, I think. Like, I have some relatives, but yeah. So ultimately, it's been built up through like going to Stomp Dance, and like mainly I would say that the turning point again for me was going to DC, the Breath of Life trip. That Megan, we missed it. She went when she was a freshman, and then I went, sophomore year. So that was just a blast. Really relating with those people, and then like after that, I just felt much more like comfortable in the community, and now we're just trucking along, having a good time.
Well, Mission Awe to all of you. So for those of us that get to work with the Myaamia students who are here on campus day in and day out, we get to see them grow over their 4 years. We get to experience this growth right next to them as, you know, I am growing in my identity at the same time that they are, and I think that's the special thing about this experience. And so we're just really happy that we get to share a little bit of that with you all, because I think that that's really important and something that maybe doesn't get shared quite often enough. So, Mission Awe.
Anyway, and from I guess the assessment perspective, I hope you can kind of see how a lot of the answers were very similar amongst people, between questions, but there's subtle, nuanced differences in the ways that people were answering these that give us some insight into how we can continue to grow as a community. So I hope you can see that today. Mission Awe.